Man, what an episode we got coming for you guys today. So I'm going to ask you guys to buckle up and take note. We got a former NFL linebacker joining the show, former Boise State linebacker as well. And we're going to dive deep into some awesome discussions. It's not just about his athletic journey, but we're going to be speaking about his spiritual journey, his faith in Jesus Christ. And we'll talk about, his testimony and how that's played a role in his life during his athletic career and especially after his athletic career. He's now a barber at Novelty Salon, which is going to be his business that he's running. And we're going to be talking about the business aspect of his life, this phase of his life now that he's in that, and talking about what like the parallels between sports and business and what he's taken into his business world. So many amazing golden nuggets from this interview that I really hope you guys pay attention to. And before we get started into that, I just want to remind everybody that the episode is being brought to you by Athlete Narrative. I am an ambassador of Athlete Narrative, and Athlete Narrative, if you've listened to the other podcasts, is a platform for athletes to build their brand. So if you want to leverage your platform to potentially help you with your name, image, and likeness and do it for a relatively low cost of $100 per month, which is extremely low, check out the link in the description. You'll get 10% off your monthly subscription. So it'll be $90 a month. And you can go through me to get that. So it's being brought to you by Athlete Narrative. I highly encourage athletes that are looking to build their social media platforms and build their brand to take a look at it and consider that as well. Man, I'm just excited to get the show started. I can't even talk about it anymore. I want you guys to strap up because this one's going to be a good one. Very personal conversation. And man, the emotions, the feelings in this one, I think you're going to feel it. You're going to feel it because I did. And I'm doing this recording of the introduction after I just completed the interview, and I can still feel it. So I know you guys are going to feel it. So awesome. This man is incredible. And I'm so grateful for him joining the podcast. So get ready, guys. Another great one coming your way. This is the Gametime Guru. So,
what time is it? Game time! Woo!
This is the Gametime Guru podcast, where I interview sports figures from all over the world to help deliver a panoramic view on sports. So whether you're a former athlete, one of the crazies, or simply a casual sports fan, this is the perfect show for you as we peel back the curtains and learn from our guests every single week. I'm your host, Shane Larson, and I'm helping you see sports through a different lens. What's up, everybody? Welcome out to another episode of the Gametime Guru podcast. My name is Shane Larson, host of the show. I just want to say thanks to everybody. We're now into 2024. As you guys heard in the introduction, got another great guest coming your way today. But man, I just have to say thank you to everybody from all the sponsors that we've shouted out, anyone who's supported me with a follow of the show, who's shared something of the show, anyone who's joined the show. I mean, we're 7 years running now and going into year number 8. And I mean, the show has grown. It's worldwide. And I really appreciate everybody who's tapped in to the show. So again, if this is your first time listening, welcome aboard. I'm glad to have you here. And I mean, if maybe you're just like, hey, I want to check this out because I know the guest that's on the show. I kind of want to hear his story. Awesome. I'm glad you're here. I'm happy to have you here. Even if you've never heard any other episodes, I would just say, hey, consider following me on social media or consider giving a follow to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube if you want to hear other interviews in the future as well. So with that being said, I am so honored to bring on our guest today. I mean, as a Boise State guy myself, I mean, I graduated from Boise State, but I've been around Boise State football my whole entire life, born and raised in the Treasure Valley. This one's a special one for me. The man played at Boise State, man played in the NFL, and now he's got some business ventures we're going to be chatting about as well. So we're going to break it all the way down with him. Today, it's Kamalei Correa. Kamalei, thanks for joining the show, man.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate you guys having me. Excited to share whatever the people want to hear. So appreciate it.
Heck yeah, man. Heck yeah. So, I mean, for those who do know who you are, they're going to know, like, they're going to probably be waiting, like, oh, I want to hear some of his cool stories in college and the NFL and stuff. But I want to actually unbox a little bit before that and kind of get to know you as an athlete in your younger days, Kamalei. Can you tell us a little bit more about, like, your, I guess, before you got to the college world, what was football like for you and what were athletics like for you? Were you starting at a young age competing in sports? Was football like your only sport? Just talk to us about at what age did you really get into athletics?
Yeah, no, for sure, man. It's a crazy long history, man. You just made me reflect on just like life in a matter of seconds, and thinking back, man, I grew up with four older brothers. I was the youngest, right? So four dudes, heavy testosterone in the house, one mom. We just always at ballparks, always doing sports. It was a continuous thing of competition, whether we're outside, whether in the house. I mean, it's like who can throw away the trash faster, who can wash the sinks faster, right? Who can wash the toilets faster. And it was like always a competition. So I just grew up around heavy competition, huge family, a lot of cousins, a lot of males, right? So I was always around environments of just compete. It was just second nature for me. I grew up playing, I mean, pretty much everything: baseball, football, basketball, soccer. I even swam, right? I did a whole bunch of stuff. My dad was a big believer in the more you could do. And at first, I was like, dude, this man's crazy. We're just running amok over here. And it actually helped me out a lot. Soccer did things for me, basketball did things for me, right? And I kind of developed into a kid that had bad attitude. I had a really bad attitude as a kid. I would always get scoldings and what we call back home in Hawaii, we call them lickings. I'm not sure.
Yeah, something
You
we
know?
don't know much about these days, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and yeah, I just had a really bad attitude as a kid. So there was like certain sports that I just didn't really mesh well, and with baseball being one of them, I was. I'm not going to toot my horn, but my family and friends, they all said I was a pretty good player at baseball. I did my thing, but I had a really bad attitude. So in my head, I was like, man, this is not a good route for me because right, you walk up to play, you strike out, you got to wait what 2-3 innings to come up and have another opportunity,
Yeah.
right? And that frustration just like really got to me as a kid. And I just kind of leaned like really heavily on football. My older brothers did it. I had two brothers that actually played football at the University of Hawaii. Excuse me. They, they kind of set the tone for me early on, and I just really fell in love with the game of football because I was able to get right back at it. If you made a mistake or if you were upset, or like me as a kid, I had a really bad attitude, I was able to take it out instantly and like recover from it faster than waiting, right? Or in all these other sports. I just felt like football was I could beat somebody up and not get in trouble for it. And that just really helped me take out my anger and my aggression as a kid. And I just kind of like stuck to it, a lot of childhood trauma, a lot of things that happened in my life personally that I just always felt like people didn't understand me and who I was as a person, who I was as an individual. And there was no better way than lining up across somebody and taking their head off. That just made me have instant gratification. So
Yo, that's awesome though, man, to hear. Just everyone's journey is different to like the sport that they actually get into, and now you kind of see like how you gravitated towards football and the reason why. I'm sure there's a lot of young athletes that probably relate to you more than we probably think in regards to like what you just said about baseball, how it takes so long to get back to the plate, and like you can't really get yours again until that time comes. And they always say next play mentality. Well, that next play might be a little bit time before you get to have a chance. So that's actually a really interesting point. And I'm sure once someone hears that on this episode, they're going to be like, yeah, he's right. Like that pisses me off too. Like, yeah, that's actually a really good point, man. Growing up in Hawaii, what was it like over there? I mean, I've got friends and, extended family members that live in Hawaii, and the culture is a little bit different over there, but it's kind of interesting hearing their stories about like sports in Hawaii, especially with like football and so forth. You guys are tough out there. You're like bred differently, man. You guys are tough guys out there. So did you notice anything, or is that just kind of a way of life out there that you were just tougher than the rest of the generation around here, I guess?
Well, it's crazy, man. Like I had mentioned earlier, my family is a really big family. My dad had 14 brothers and sisters, and they all obviously had their kids, and we just
Whoa.
so many people, and we're not small people, right?
Yeah.
And we just grew up around like that competition factor, like I had mentioned earlier. And it's just very interesting how we grow up in Hawaii. Shout out to my family down in Kuli'o'o. I just want to give them a shout out. That's where I'm born and raised. I was born and raised in this valley that was like really cultivated around culture, Ohana, which is our family. We're very close and tight knit. All our family parties, everyone would chip in, get together, right? It's not like a small event. Like everything we did was just like big. Like everything we did was meaningful. It was had purpose. There wasn't just like we just didn't do things just to do them, right? And I think that kind of cultivated like meaning, purpose, drive, motivation, family, kind of everything that kids nowadays or people that find a niche that they're into kind of find their why, right? And like why they do something or why they like sports or podcasting or a sports anchor, whatever their thing is that they're into, but they always have a why behind it. And for me, the why started young. I had a lot of cousins and brothers that I looked up to at a young age that was very, very athletic. I still ask myself this question to this day, and like how did this little boy from Hawaii who grew up with some craziness in his life that was like handpicked to be chosen to make it to the NFL. I am a believer in Christ, and I feel like faith is a big thing in my life. So still to this day, I still like, why me, right? Like why this little boy from Hawaii in a small little valley down in Kuli'o'o, Hawaii, was chosen to be taken to the extreme of the extreme, the premier heights, right? Professional athlete. That's what you aim for when you're playing toss back and forth with the cousins in the yard and you're playing tackle football with them and you're just, and you're barefoot, man. And see, that was one really cool thing about growing up in Hawaii. A lot of people don't know, man. The weather's nice year round, right?
Right.
Never had to worry about snow, rain much. Just we were barefoot in the streets, in the yard, no shirts, right? We're in tank top, board shorts. Like, man, that's how we grew up playing football. Bro, we gathered like 20, 25 of us cousins, and we would just go up to the park and just go play tackle football. And that was just kind of where it all started, man. We just beat up on each other, stick each other, and then we would run home and we would all eat dinner together, right? And just kind of cultivating like that team like atmosphere at a super young age. And I think that's just kind of how it all kind of cultivated and started.
Yo, that's so cool, man. That's so cool. I love the family aspect of it and how like tight knit you guys are. That aspect of it too, it builds toughness. The fact that like that was just a way of life for you guys go barefoot, shorts, and a tank top, go play tackle football, beat the crap out of each other, go home and eat, and then like you're fine. Like that's just it's a different toughness that I think is important to understand because that probably played a role without you even realizing it in your football journey as you got later on into your football journey. It's funny. We always talk about, I was talking to people. I'm a Buckeyes fan as well as a Boise State fan. I know it's weird, but I got a lot of people that I chat with from Ohio State. And we were talking when I went out there for a Notre Dame game, and they were talking about Manti Te'o, right, from Notre Dame back in the day. And so we were at the game, and the Notre Dame fans were talking about Manti, and they were talking about the Hawaiian, football players. And I'm like, listen, U of U, BYU, Boise State's got them. Like, I mean, it's a different breed, man. They're tough. And we were chatting about it, and now it makes sense even more. Like, they were like, back out west, man, they've got a lot of those guys. I'm like, yeah. And I hope that they hear this because they'll see why. Like, yeah, this is what goes on out there. This is why they're different. And it's awesome. You know,
sure.
Kamalei, you mentioned some. You said, you know, you're a believer in Christ. I too am a believer in Christ, and I want to ask you a question, if you don't mind. I want to see, like, how has your relationship with Christ, being a Christian, a believer, helped you in your, not only your life, but as an athlete? Because I think sometimes young athletes, they're believers in Christ, but maybe they don't even realize the role that he plays in their athletic journey. Maybe they think that he doesn't care about their athletic journey and what they're doing in sports. But I actually believe he does. I believe that he's provided people with talents and abilities, and some take advantage of those. And I just wanted to know if you have anything to say in regards to, like, maybe how you feel like being a Christian athlete has helped you in your journey.
Man, I love this question. Like, I just love talking about this kind of stuff now. You know, just kind of where I'm at in my life, like now at this present moment. I like somewhat kind of grew up around the word. I wasn't really big into it. Just kind of just a kid, man. I was a kid, kind of forming my own opinions, hanging around crowds, kind of, you know, going through life. And fast forward to getting to college, I was not the best example. I was not a follower of Christ as I am now. I was a bad dude, man. Did some bad things, sinned a lot, man. But I say this so like openly and honestly because of the conviction that the Lord has bestowed in my heart, bestowed in my mind, and just like completely transformed and into a different human. And with that being said, I kind of like always had a grasp of like who God was to me or who Christ was. You know, I would go into games, you know, in college, and you know, it's like the same. It's like so hard for me to say that, like it's very cliche because we all still believe, right? Like we would go into, say, a college game, right? Routine was the night before you would have chapel as a team.
Uh-huh.
Whole team gets together, got a pastor, everyone kind of, you know, whoop de, oh, praise God, thank you, we love you. I hope I do good in my game tomorrow, right? Then you go to your game, you get in the locker room, you get the jitters, team gets together, you all kind of say the team prayer, you say your private prayer, right? You go into your game. And then once the game is done, right? Boom, we got our victory. And then you'll catch me getting ready, heading to the liquor store, getting a bottle and getting ready to go out downtown and not be the person who God has really called me to be. Just because I got my award and my accolades on the field, I was not doing that outside of the field, right? But I had just like shadowed that for so long in my life where I just kind of created this like false narrative of who Christ really is. And I just kind of lived that throughout my whole sports career in general. Just kind of used God as like, you blessed me with these gifts, thank you. But as soon as I'm done with this, I'm going to go do my own thing.
Yeah.
Right. And then fast forward to, you know, I get to the NFL. I did a couple years, all good. It's cool. Ended up going through, you know, some personal stuff, got traded twice. I became a dad, husband, right? Went through some personal stuff. You know, I got divorced. I made some horrible decisions as a person. And I say this so openly and honestly because it's like, dude, I love these kind of conversations, man, because it gives me an opportunity to show people what Christ has really done for me in my life. And yeah, man, I made it to the pinnacle, right? And make all this money, fame, married, kid, right? Think you got it all figured out, man. And like, boom, taken from you, man, in a matter of seconds. So, you know, fast forward, I lost my family. I lost football. You know, I stepped away from football. I was just very lost and confused in life. I thought I knew who Christ was, right? I was like, why are you doing this to me? I thought we had it all figured out. We've made it to the NFL, married, kid, nice house, cars, money, all these things in life that we aim for as a kid, right? And you get there and boom, it's gone. You know, my selfish nature, my selfish behavior, my abusing of who God in Christ really is in my life, just for my self-gratification and my glory. And I lost everything, man. And I had no other direction but to go was back to Christ, because he'll never leave us nor forsake us. And I went back and just kind of really dived in, fast forward these past couple years, man. And just kind of really started understanding who Christ really is, no matter who we are as people, what we have, accolades, money, cars, fame. It does not matter, man. It matters about our personal relationship and our heart that cultivates with our Creator. And just very meaningful, very passionate about this kind of stuff now. And I'm honestly super glad that you asked this question, because I could sit here and talk for 10 hours about this, because I just really genuinely care about this kind of stuff now. And I really hope this wakes these very confused young minds out here that we think we're chasing after this gratification of being famous and making money. And it's like we lose so much sight of us as people and as beings, and whose God has truly called us to be, and that's to love and to serve people and to help people and to like live with a pure heart and to do the right thing. And a lot of these times in sports, it's sad, but the narrative now around sports with the whole money, the NIL, the collegiate level, NFL, right? All these things, you just see so many distractions, man. The girls, the women, the booze, the drugs, right? The partying, so many distractions that like lead us away from like, dude, God's giving you this platform and you're throwing it away, dude, because you care about yourself, your prideful ego. You're such a selfish being. And like having it all taken from me, man, like really rerouted me, reshaped me, just kind of shifted my foundation. So appreciate you asking that, man. I just really love sharing about that kind of stuff.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate you opening up about that. I just think it's a really good conversation to have. I know personally a ton of high school level athletes around here in the Treasure Valley of Idaho who are, Christian athletes. And I've had conversations with some of them because they've asked me. And, some kids, I think, they're almost scared to fully dive in because they almost feel like it might make them weak in their sport. I know that sounds crazy, but I have had that conversation with people. They're like, well, like, I don't know if Christ wants me to be in your conversation with football, right? I don't think he wants me to be taking people's heads off and blah, blah, blah. Like, and we have those conversations, and I think this will be very helpful for them. So one thing I would just ask on a follow-up on that, not to, I don't want to, make you have to answer stuff. But if you're okay with it, like if you could go back in time or maybe just share something to those athletes that might be in the same position as you were, you believed, but maybe hindsight, you might've been taking advantage of some of the gifts that he was given without like potentially, like living up to who he really wanted you to be. If an athlete's in college right now or about to be, and they might be doing something similar, do you have any advice you might give them in regards to that? If they, knowing what you know now, looking back, that you could provide to them?
Absolutely, man. It's like, the hindsight's 2020, right? It's like, bro, you
Right.
wish you could go back and know what you know now and install that in your past life. And it's like, that's the reality of life. It's like, but that's also the journey, right? And that's the beautiful thing about like where we are at now and like what makes us, like why we are who we are, right? And it's like going through those journeys and those hurdles and those hiccups, like it's all going to cultivate and bring goodness out of it, right? There's nothing that's good that's wasted, man. He uses everything for the goodness of his glory, right? But man, it's like very hard to say, right? Because every athlete comes from a different background.
Right.
Some people come from the suburbs, some people come from the projects, some people come from the country, some people come from foreign lands. And it's like, it's crazy because when you look at sport in general, like you cultivate a team and an environment of specific individuals that are attracted to the same mindset and the same goal and cohesiveness, right? No matter where you come from. And I think like that embodies, right, the body of Christ. We are all childs of God, no matter where you're from, foreign, domestic, black, white, Chinese, it does not matter. We're all like-minded individuals that are attracted to a higher power that is after something of pure glory and pure gratification. And to say that to an athlete that's going through the same things or the struggles or hiccups, dude, I just say like, dude, I just honestly encourage people to just reflect, man. Like we get so distracted and caught up, right? The transfer portal, the money, the NILs, the women, the fame, being on the Jumbotron. I'm the guy in the building. I got the posters. I got the followers, right? Dude, it's distractions, bro. It's all good, right? But it matters like how we steward it, man. It's like, how are we going to use these things, right? How are we going to use our followers? Like, are we going to influence these children to do bad things and sell money, do drugs, and abuse women? Are we going to have a positive platform with these followers, right? It's like, it's all about the approach. And I feel like with all these distractions that we have nowadays, especially for these younger kids, is like, dude, sit back, man, like reflect, like talk to those around you, like call mom and dad again, bro. Like you're not too cool for that, bro. Like tap into the cousins, like tap into the people that you used to play backyard ball with. Because that's the people that like actually care about you, bro. Like tap into those people because that's going to make you sit back and reflect on your why. Like why are you even doing, like what are you actually chasing, bro? Like, are we chasing the money, the fame, the glory, or are we chasing the pursuit of like being so present, like being where your feet at, respecting the janitors in your building, respecting your coaches, your trainers, right? You're not walking in and you're telling your trainers to, yo, hurry up, take me up because I got 100 followers and I'm making $1 million in my NIL. Like, bro, nobody cares about that, bro.
That's so
Bro,
true, man.
right? It's like, bro, what they care about is how you're going to talk to me, how you're going to approach me with respect, man. Like, it doesn't matter what you got, bro. It's like how you treat people is so much more important. It goes like so much further than what people think. And it's like, for me, this is just a personal reflection as I always look back and say, yeah, dude, I wasn't the best dude in college. I made a lot of stupid mistakes. But one thing that I can genuinely always look back and say that I've always treated everyone that was around me with kindness and respect, whether it's from the equipment room, training staff, coaches, my teammates. I mean, if you look around and ask people, it's like, I can guarantee you, sorry, I got to sneeze. Excuse me.
Bless you.
It's like a lot of people probably wouldn't say negative things about me because how I was instilled in, again, how we talked about how I grew up in Hawaii, that family environment of respecting your aunties and uncles, loving your parents, right? That was always instilled in me, and I never lost sight of that. But for these younger generations, for the kids who did grow up in the projects, for the kids who didn't have a mom and dad, right? For those who had a hard upbringing, dude, you got to respect people. It doesn't matter, bro. Like, respect your trainers, your coaches, your teammate, because when all this money and fame is done and your career is done, bro, you're going to look back and say, who's still around me for me? And it's like, even everything that I've went through, man, I still reside here in Boise. I still connect with former teammates. I still get together with them. We still get our kids together, right? It's way bigger than who I was. We don't sit there and compare houses or cars. We just, yo, how's the kids? How's the wife? Is everything good? Hey, bro, how can I help you? Hey, man, my daughter's having a birthday party, man. Would love for you guys to come over, right? It's just so much more beyond that it's like, don't lose sight of the humane aspect of what sport really is about.
Man, I absolutely love that. And I want everyone who listens to this, especially the athletes that I've coached, to rewind that and like take note if you missed anything and just like kind of see that is such a huge aspect. The respect factor from you and your family and the culture that you were from. Yeah, that was instilled from a young age, probably when you were there. But I love that you mentioned, like, even if you didn't grow up with that blessing of having the family and a strong family figure around, take note of what Kamalei just said right now and use that. You don't have an excuse anymore. Like now, from what he said. I love watching the athletes that it sticks out to me. When I was coaching my first year in basketball and these kids were 16 years old, and one of the kids, every single practice, I wasn't expecting it, but every single practice, I noticed it from the day one. He came up and shook my hand and said, "Thank you, coach." Even if like that practice, he had a bad practice and I was yelling at him all and stuff, he always shook my hand and said, "Thank you." And so because of that, 4 years later, my son, who's now 7, my oldest son is 7, I tell him now that he's playing basketball, even if it's YMCA basketball, before we leave every practice, you are to shake your coach's hand and you tell him thank you for the time they put in. And I appreciate you sharing that, because that was something that stood out to me that I wasn't practicing myself, but it was an athlete that I was coaching that did it. So now I'm trying to pass it on to my son to do the same thing. It's people will remember that. And they'll remember the bad things too. They'll remember the bad things too. So you need to be able to reflect and be respectful. I love that, man. Thank you. And as we look at your athletic career, Kamalei, and we look at the Boise State time, you were at Boise State during a unique time. It was unique. They were coming off of the quote unquote glory days. Like it was like with the Kellen Moore era, and they were still trying to ride high on the wave, and they were trying to figure out what they're trying to keep playing at a high level. So there were still some really high times and some no, I wouldn't say they were low times. They were just not up to the expectations that they had like 3 or 4 years prior. But I want to know, like, in regards to that, what was your favorite memory as an athlete at Boise State? Do you have a favorite memory? Was it a game? Was it an experience at practice or anything of that nature that you could share with us?
Man, it's so hard to just pick one.
I'm sure.
But so many great memories, man. So many great times. Super blessed and fortunate to have came to this university, met the people I've met, all for a reason, man. And I truly believe that. But if I could sit back and really account for like one Boise State memory, man, I would say my sophomore year, I believe, we played Washington here at home when that was Coach Pete's first year at UW, right? The coach who recruited me, right? Kind of a long story on that. But I'll never forget, man, because Coach Pete recruited me. Stand-up guy, I have the utmost respect for Coach Pete. I mean, one of the greatest human beings I've been around. I'm not even going to say coach because he was just an outstanding human. He impacted my life in ways more than I could even put into words. And we had played UW that first year, right? And that was a very stacked team, right? Like that was their start of their dynasty, right? I mean, the Jake Browning, right? The Myles Gaskins, right? They had studs who then went on in the next 2 years and made it to the college football playoffs, right?
Yeah.
But that game was so impactful for me because that wasn't only the coach that had recruited me and gave me an opportunity, but I actually still have this picture of me super blessed that somebody actually caught it on camera. The game was done. We ended up winning the game. Coach Pete was in the middle saying his highs and byes to everybody after the game. And, a lot of people wanted to come and see him. But I'll never forget, he had given me a hug, and I had a pretty good game. I'm not going to say my stats, but I did pretty well. He had given me a hug, and he had whispered in my ear. He had said something along the lines of, "I always knew You're going to be an incredible player. Keep it up. Very, very proud of you, young man. I can't wait to watch you on Sundays. And like that stuck with me for the rest of that season. And if people look back, like that sophomore season was probably my breakout year. I had a really, really solid year that kind of put my own name on my map. And like that game was like the setting tone for that season for me. Just like hearing that from Coach Pete, and like that was one of my fondest memories that I don't even share with people to this day, because a lot of people don't ask. I don't just like tell people about that moment.
Right.
But that memory was probably one of my best memories. Fast forward to last year when Coach Avalos was actually in the building. This is just a little side story about how awesome of a guy Coach Peterson really is. I actually went back into the building and I ran into Coach Pete, and he was just having a conversation with someone. I see him from across the hallway. I was like, "What's up, old man?" And he called me over, and Coach Pete had remembered my home visit, where I lived. He remembered my mom's name. He remembered where she worked. He remembered about her knee issue. And just in general, man, as I Coach Pete, thank you for being so much more than just a coach. You actually cared. You were genuine, and you were present at every moment that you had with your players, and it showed to me. And like having somebody like that, man, is like, that's memories that like
Shout
forever.
out to Coach Pete, man. I appreciate you sharing that story. I've heard so many awesome things from players, but I was just a fan. I was at that game as a fan, by the way. I was in the south end zone, second row. That was where my season tickets used to be back in the day. But I actually got to listen to Coach Pete at the Athletic Leadership Conference at Boise State this last, I think it was June. And I was in there with a bunch of other coaches and athletic directors and stuff. And we were just, going through a conference, and he was a keynote speaker. And even just being in front of him for like 45 minutes to an hour, listening to him talk, I mean, I took more out of that than I probably did through all my years of college. I'm not even joking either. People say, "Oh, no, you didn't." No, I promise you I did. I took more useful, information that I can implement into my actual career in that 60-minute keynote speech from Coach Pete. It was more impactful to me than like a 4-year degree. I'm not even joking. And it wasn't $30,000 either. So anyway, I can imagine being able to play for him. I'm sure there's some like tough. I mean, every coach has like, you get to see them in their good and their bad days too. But like, I can't even imagine how impactful and that's so cool to hear that story. Kamalei, I am curious because you had you were recruited by Coach Pete. You're at Boise State during that era of there was a coaching change, and the coaching personalities between Pete and Harsin, they're different. They're different personalities, different coaching styles. And then, it's just different philosophies and so forth. But it doesn't necessarily mean one's terrible, one's not. It's just some just fit differently with other people. So I am curious because you are one of the few who get to say that you had that opportunity. And I'm curious how you went about adjusting to a new coaching staff and being able to compete at a high level still, even though that probably was kind of a tough change for you. Because that's a lot of the things that's one of the things that like sports can teach us is like authority and learning how to take, instructions from a new boss and a new leader and respect a new leader and do the job that you're supposed to do anyway. And so I'm just curious if you had any like insight on how that was for you. How did you go about adjusting to the coaching changes?
Well, to be 100% transparent with you, I was young at the time, right? I mean, where I was 19 years old, first year of college. Sitting back, I was like, "Coach Pete, like you sold me this dream, dude. Like, come to Boise State. We're gonna cultivate you OKG, how to be a great human, not just player." And I was young, man. My mind was like just like in a very childlike state, like seeing him as my father and like he's leaving me,
Yeah.
It's like, I kind of had to separate that and be like, dude, he's my coach. It's like, hey, he's moving on for an opportunity. And at first I was like, dude, I'm gonna transfer. I'm over this, I'm out of here. And I just kind of like embraced the suck, dude. I remember going back before we had played Oregon State in our bowl game. And I'm in the dorm rooms with my whole freshman class, just like, dude, like everyone's right sitting there like, bro, what are we going to do? Like, oh, are you going to leave? Oh, are you going to stay? Right. The whole just, man, it's so childish, man, looking back, you know, because the transfer portal wasn't a thing back then.
Right.
It was a whole different like step of process you had to take. You had to get things approved, signed off. Bro, you couldn't transfer into the same conference. You had to like go to JC before you could play again. Like so many rules, right? And I was looking back, I'm like, dude, like, what's the best thing for me? And that was the best thing for me, was to stay, like, to figure out why I chose Boise in the first place. Not only for Pete, was like, this is an opportunity, dude, to set the tone for my family, to be the first in my generation to make it to the NFL of my family, right? To like going back to my why, right? Those backyard days of playing hit stick with the cousins in the yard. Like, what's my why, bro? So that coaching change of Harsin was just like, I was just like so rock solid dialed in. I was just like, I'm going to step on this field, and every time I'm out here, I'm going to give my absolute best, and I'm going to let other people dictate their level of where I'm at. Because I know where my level's at and my threshold, and I'll just see if other people can see it. And that's when I just put my best foot forward every single day I stepped out there, whether it's the weight room, running decks, on the field, did not matter. And I just kind of let the work speak for itself, and it did. The coaches started realizing it. The scouts started realizing it, and the rest was history. And I just believed in myself. And like a little side note, man, like, you know, this transfer portal and this whole NIL deal, I mean, like, you know, I'm sure we can sit here and talk on it for 5 hours. But my like short little dissertation on this, man, is like, when times get hard, the grass is not always greener on the other side. Like, it's just a human nature to think like, oh, it sucks here, so it has to be better here. And I don't know everyone's situation. Everyone's situation is different, man. Oh, my coach doesn't like me, or I'm not playing, or at the end of the day, it's like when you sit back and self-reflect, how I said earlier,
Yeah.
the work is going to speak for itself, man. You can sit there and complain about, oh, he's making this at that school and I'm making, like, dude, bet on yourself, bro. Like, self-reflect, look at every situation and say, am I genuinely putting my best foot forward every single day that I step out onto this field? Am I genuinely putting my best foot forward in the classroom? Am I putting my best foot forward in the training room? And if you can like literally check all those boxes and then still have issues, then I would say make an attempt at having a new environment. But first, like, self-reflect before you just like quit your teammates, your locker room, where you started, and just like thinking everything's better on the other side. It's like we lose sight of the work, man. Like, dude, you got to put in the work, bro. It's not just like I get a better NIL deal because I was a 5-star out of high school. Like, no one cares, bro. To be point blank, period. That's my honest opinion, right? This kid, Malachi Nelson, I don't know the kid, not going to speak on him. I'm not running with the hype, bro. I'm not. Because one reason I say that, because here at Boise State, man, it's like everything's earned, bro. There was walk-ons at Boise State that outbeated 3-4-star kids. There was kids from Council, Idaho, Matt Paradis, a prime example, who came in as a walk-on defensive tackle, right? It's like Boise State is built different. It does not matter where you come from. It does not matter who you are. It matters about who you are in that building and how you treat people and how you cultivate an environment and a locker room that have a supportive backing with you, right? And I say that with complete passion, because I hope this kid Malachi comes in and earns the respect of his teammates and they ball out. And dude, I don't know the kid. I have nothing against this kid. All I'm saying is the culture here at Boise State is different. And it's not like all these other transfer portal kids and schools and offering millions of dollars. We don't have that here. We have blue collar kids that grind, and we have a culture, and we have a city that is behind this team that care. And that's what you get, man. We're blue collar corn-fed dudes that just love to smack people upside down, you know? So that was my little small dissertation on that, man.
I love that. I would second that. I mean, I think it's a great opportunity for some athletes to get paid, but the transfer portal, I mean, you got to be very cautious with some stuff. And I've talked to a lot of coaches over the last 7 years, especially the last 2 years, as things have been, with the NIL and transfer portal going crazy. And there are so many athletes that aren't educated well enough that they do exactly what you just said, Kamalei. They'll go into the transfer portal along with 1,000 to 9,000 plus athletes, depending on what sport they're going in the transfer portal with. And then they realize that they, one, go to a worse situation, or two, there's a lot of people no one talks about, a lot that end up in no situation. Their playing days are over because nobody picked them up. So no one talks about that, but there are a lot of athletes that hit the transfer portal and never play again because no one picks them up, because all of a sudden now you're in a situation where everybody's in and they're going to pick who they think. It all comes down to who you know, what you know. Like, they're going to pick whoever they think they know. They're not going to. Yeah. So the grass isn't always green on the other side. It's greener where you water it. And I appreciate you sharing that. Now, Kamalei, when you mentioned earlier that, you had a dream to get to the NFL, and that's what, you stayed at Boise State, you embraced the suck. You wanted to be the first one to be able to make it to the NFL. When that possibility became a reality and you found yourself in the NFL before training camps and mini camps or anything of that nature, when your name was called and you realized you were going, talk to us about, I want to understand from your perspective, the day that it happened that you found out you were going to be playing in the NFL.
Sheesh. Crazy. It was absolute dream come true in like a matter of hours, right? The countdown, the time and the clock ticking, just like everything is like, dude, my life is absolutely about to change forever. It'll never be the same. A kid from Hawaii who didn't grow up the most wealthiest, had struggles. I'm not going to sit here and have a pity party. I didn't have the best upbringing, dude. That wasn't an excuse. And I think with that was like, that was the reward of a lifetime, because I knew my situation had changed. My family situation has changed. My last name changed, right? It's not only representing me, but my people back home, that name has meaning. It has significance. And that day was just like, I didn't go to the draft. I had a small little party at my brother's house and his wife, my brother Kyle and Shannon. Shout out to you guys. They opened their house for a few of, our families, our cousins, a few of my high school friends and buddies. It wasn't anything big. It was the people that's been around me, who embraced the suck with me through the high school and the college days, through my ups and downs. And it was just a very special moment to not only look back and see myself on the screen, but it was a chance for me to set the tone for my nieces and nephews. Because like I said, right, it's like I have 4 older brothers and I'm the youngest. So I was kind of like that bridge gap between their kids and like them. I was always the cool uncle.
Yeah.
Bro, I was always the one giving them candies and, taking them out to movies and doing like weird stuff, And I feel like that was an opportunity for me to like set the tone for them besides their parents. And I look back at them at such a young age and I see them now and where they're at. I got nieces and nephews embarking on in college, getting scholarships for football. I have a nephew that's going to UNLV playing the same position as me. who tells me outright, like, I aspire to be like you, uncle. Right. And like setting that tone, it's like now he has an opportunity. And I feel like that day was like so monumental for not only me, but for our family, because it it just set the tone on so many levels, right? Like the standard's a standard, right? I have a lot of successful nieces and nephews, love all of them. They're on their way to really great things. They're great kids. I don't just say that because they're my nieces and nephews. I say that because the standard is a standard and they know the standard. And for me to have said it in that kind of way is just, it's super cool to look back. I don't sit back and take credit. I just sit back and observe. And I see it all unfolding. And I think like that's the dopest part about it, you know?
Yeah, dude. That's so dope, man. Super cool. I can imagine, I'm like picturing it in your shoes, like you literally said it, like your name, your last name, it kind of like changed the whole like family trajectory. You set the example. You were the example there. And that was massive. Now though, as you go into the NFL, I'm sure there's like a high point where like, okay, it's time to go, but then the work starts, right? And I'm curious the transition from, the high point of being drafted or just being called, depending on whoever situation is what, it's a free agent or whatever, but you report to camp and now the work begins. And then there's the business component to it. But like, I guess my question for you, Kamalei, would be what was the biggest transition going from the collegiate game and going from the excitement of getting your name called and you're ready to go to actually doing the job? What was the biggest transition for you? What was the hardest transition, I should say?
Man, there were many transition, but if I could like pinpoint one on like sets the tone and kind of trickles down from there is humility. I came in, right? I was drafted pretty high, second round pick, came out of Boise State, great career, right? I'm just riding this high, dude. And I get to Baltimore and I get around a bunch of Hall of Famers, man. Terrell Suggs, CJ Mosley, Marshall Yonda, Joe Flacco, Eric Weddle, Elvis Dumerville. I mean, the list goes on, bro. Bro, superstars around me, bro. First day in the building. I don't even know how to act. Right? I don't, dude. I'm like a little paranoid kid, bro. I was 22 years old, right? And I walk in, I'm like, second round pick, man. I'm not like verbally saying that, but in my head, I'm like, I can run with these dudes.
Yeah.
And it's like such the wrong approach, like so reversed, you know? Like now looking back is like, why didn't I have the humility to just like sit there and soak everything in instead of be like, I can run with these guys. I know what I'm doing. I know how to recover. What do you mean cover three? Yeah, of course I know how to run cover three. And like, no, dude, like, bro, the dynamics in the NFL are just so different. That's like all you do every day. Every moment is football, right? Like you look in college, you got your social life, you got football, you got school, right? You got after school activities, right? You got programs and right. In the NFL, you got family and football. There's nothing else, right? And it's like the level of professionalism is at an all-time high. So the way you ran cover three in college is not the same way we're running cover three in the league, bro. Route concepts are different. Offensive attacks are different. Smokes and mirrors, bro. Everything's different, man. And it's like, I just wish I had the humility to sit back and just be a fly on the wall, shut up, and just learn. And just not think I had it all figured out. And it's so crazy because my first game, My first NFL game, period. I've never been to an NFL game in my life before this one. My first NFL game was playing in a preseason game, Detroit Lions at M&T Bank with the Ravens. First NFL game, period. And I tell you, dude, I got blessed, man. I got humbled. I got put in a coffin how many times that game, dude? And it's like, I just wish I had more humility, because it doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter what round you get picked. It matters what you do when you get in that building. I've seen guys who were late round free agent picks that end up playing 12 to 15-year careers and excelling, awesome career. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
Just pure humility, man.
Man, it's so interesting hearing this, because you would never know. Like, I would never know. I was just following your career. I would have just assumed everything was chill. To my understanding, I mean, I felt like you adapted pretty quickly. Like, I mean, I'm just sitting over here. I wasn't in the day-to-day of anything. And so it's really cool for me to hear it from you and just kind of seeing what it was like. And I didn't even put two and two together of like all the names you just listed. I can't even imagine. Like, all of a sudden now you're working with these dudes. These are like coworkers of yours. Like, whoa. These are the dudes I was watching on TV. I was playing with on Madden. Holy cow. Like, that's wild, man. That's a pretty cool, like, not many people get that opportunity. So for you, you're talking about coverages and whatnot. I've had a friend of mine who went to a rookie mini camp. He went to Idaho State back in the day, played safety, and then he got invited to a Chargers mini camp back when they were in San Diego back in the day. And that's all that he played overseas in like Italy in the small town, like professional football league, if you want to call it that. But he told me about his rookie mini camp, and he said, dude, he goes, I thought I could hang with these guys. He's like, I'm playing safety. We've got linemen that are 6'5", 300+ pounds, running faster than I can run. He goes, I remember them pulling. And these are also dudes that are not like on the roster either. These are dudes fighting to try to get a name, put a name out. He goes, these dudes are pulling and coming around the line on certain, run schemes. And he goes, they should not be running that fast. Like, he's like, I could not figure out the speed of the guy. I was like, this is ridiculous. And he said, I just knew like that I wasn't going to be able to make it. But did you notice, like, from either the play calling, like, sorry, not the play calling, but the playbook, like coverage schemes, the speed of the game, was it a pretty hard transition for you? Or were you, since you were just like a natural talent of the game, like, did you pick it up pretty quickly in that regard? I know you said, you got humbled in the first game, but like, I mean, it seemed like you were getting, especially with Tennessee, I don't know, like, but did you feel like you picked it up pretty fast with the speed of the game and whatnot?
I would say from a physical standpoint, it wasn't that much difference. Obviously, like, you have to compete, right? You got to lift, run, right? Like, you go to, like a pre-combine training, you meet guys, you kind of see where they're at, right? You can kind of compare. So you're like, oh, I'm pretty strong too. That's who I'm going to be going up against, knowing he's a top 10 pick. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I can do that too. All right, bet. So, like, you started to grow like this confidence, right? But like, there's the game within the game. And I'm sure every athlete knows that, right? Like, don't be a statue, man. Like, be an athlete. Like, hey, I know coach told you to stand here, but if there's no one there, it's like, why are you going to stand there? Go guard someone if he's not in there, right? And it's kind of just that game within the game mentality of like, there's guys that have been in the league who are still playing in the preseason and they're a 10-year veteran, but they're still trying to make a team. But they know more than this rookie coming in who thinks he's running cover 3 the right way and he's going to hit you with a double move and get a tutty, right? And it's kind of just like, well, I got. But what are you going to do from that? Like, are you going to respond? You're going to learn? You're going to grow, right? You're going to keep attacking, or you're going to quit. And I think it just ultimately comes down to mindset of like, win more than you lose. Like, that's a big phrase in the NFL, right? It's like, bro, we're all going to get got. Everyone's good. Everyone's fast. Everyone's strong. Everyone scores, right? I mean, you see guys week in and week out getting beat, getting torched. They're $100 million guys. Obviously, they're human being. They're going to get beat. But when they make impressive plays, you can see them playing the game within the game. You can see them baiting that cue, and he's turning the shoulder, and last second he whips, and he's like, gotcha. I knew it. Right? And it's kind of just that game within the game mentality that I didn't have when I first came in, and kind of like incorporated that over time. It's like, okay, hey, if I'm showing a simulated pressure on the right and I know I'm not coming, I'm going to make sure I sell it. So my guy on the left who is coming, which is probably the nickel away from me, who ain't showing pressure, is now free because now they're sliding the line to me. And now he's a free runner, right? And like those are the things that coaches would harp on. It was like, play the game within the game, man. Like, don't be a statue. Like, be an athlete, man. Like, help your teammate out. Like, not only how do you get home, but how do they get home? Right? Like, another big phrase is like, bro, you got to sacrifice your body to glorify your soul sometimes, dude. Like, you're not always going to be the one getting the glory or getting the stat. But are you willing to stick in that A gap and wrong arm that center so that linebacker that's scraping across from you can run free and have a one-on-one with the back and get a sack? Are you willing to do that? Because if you're not, they'll find another free agent just like you who is willing. And you're going to be replaced in a matter of seconds. So you better figure it out. And if you don't, guess what, bud? You're on the Greyhound. See ya. And that was just kind of play the game within the game, man. Like, be an athlete. Like, be who you always were. Like, don't lose confidence. And man, I get super passionate about this because like I just lost my confidence when I first started playing too. I was just like, I forgot who I was. I forgot about my abilities. Like, I can wrong arm, I can double swipe, I can get home, I can do these things. And it's like, I was always second guessing myself. I was late. I was hesitant. I didn't pull the trigger. I wasn't playing the game within the game. I wasn't being who I was at Boise State. And I think that was a big hindrance to me when I first got in as well. It's like, I just kind of like froze. I was like, dude, like, be an athlete. You see the guy with the ball, go tackle him. Don't sit there and think they're running a reverse every time. They're not. The ball's going that way, so go get them. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of, yeah, just a little insight on that.
No, I appreciate that, man. And that's a good reminder for a lot of athletes. I just play the game within the game, be an athlete, don't be a statue. I love that. That's super insightful. And it's just interesting because even guys like yourself, you know, high caliber elite athlete, even guys like yourself can lose a little bit of confidence sometimes, and you have to find a way to get that back. And that's huge. And I would share that with the high school athletes that are listening to this. And if you're a parent or a coach listening to this, take that, like, remind your athletes to do that. I mean, it's easier said than done, I'm sure, but yeah, I mean, that's what separates people. But man, it's just so insightful having you on here. I'm just thinking of all these things you're saying. It's such good intel to what it's like to be an athlete at that level, from a spiritual perspective to a business perspective to the confidence and mental health perspective, just like everything that goes into it, and the struggles, the good things, and everything. I love it. As we're getting close to the end here, I still want to talk about your business side, but I want to ask, in the NFL, you had alluded to it earlier, like once the trades happened and life was getting really tough and you had to take some personal breaks, you know, there's some things there that probably, I don't know if it cut it short or if that was kind of what you wanted to do or anything, but if you look back on your NFL career, what would you consider it a job well done, Kamalei? Would you say, hey, like, I did what I set out to do. I played at a high level, and although, you know, everybody kind of wants to play for a long time, I don't know what your goals were. Maybe you could share that, but you were there for a while. I mean, more than some, more than a lot actually. So, and you got to play a while. So, and you got in the games, and you got on the stat sheets, and you did your thing. You were on Madden. That's you're on a video game. I mean, that's pretty dope. So I don't know, if you look back at your NFL career, would you say, hey, you know what? I did what I set out to do?
From a personal standpoint, no, because I've always been the hardest critic on myself. Like, And I think that's just how I was raised. That's just the mindset I've always had. Like I've always had a mindset of never being content, never like nothing's enough. Like it even came down to like how I clean the kitchen. Like, okay, well, did I just wash the dishes or did I wash the dishes, wipe the counters, wipe the stove? Did I clean everything off? Did I sweep? Right? Did I put everything away as a dishwasher on? Right? Like how you do anything is how you do everything, bro. And like I've always had an expectation. Obviously, I wanted to make Pro Bowls and be an all pro, be a consistent starter, sign a mega contract, right? All these things that I never got to do. But from the things that I was able to do, like, yeah, obviously I was super blessed, super fortunate, man, super grateful from like a very vague standpoint. But from a personal standpoint, like, so if your mindset is just to make it, like, you're never going to make it in anything you do in life, like, whatever it is. If your mindset is to be a podcaster and you just like make a podcast in one episode, like, no one's going to watch it. Like, no one's going to see what you got going on. They're not going to see the consistency of it, right? Like, all these things, like, I've always had that mindset of like, it's never enough. And that was probably my worst quality, but my best quality because I didn't need other people to keep me accountable. I kept myself accountable. I always knew what I had to do. Like, yeah, I would party hard, but I would study hard. I would work hard. I would sleep hard. I would recover hard. I would do everything else hard too. And like you kind of seen those results, right? And I think, yeah, from a personal standpoint, no, I definitely left a lot out there. And it's a little gut wrenching to say, but that's just the outright truth. I definitely had more in the tank. I had more to give. From a spiritual standpoint, that's just not where I was headed. And I think for me, accepting that was where I actually started finding peace. And a big quote with me that still sticks with me is actually from a song from J. Cole. It's called Love Yours, right? And he had mentions about, he says, the good news is you came a long way. Then he goes on to say, he says, the bad news is you went the wrong way. And that just like really, really stood out to me, man. It really hit home for me because like I was chasing the money. I was chasing the fame. I was chasing the glory. I was chasing the look at me. I was chasing I got it all figured out. But in reality, I didn't. I was a broken kid that was chasing monetary and earthly things that had nothing figured out. And I was living in complete insecurities. I was living in a place of vulnerability that I was trying to mask and hide for so many years because I had this persona and I had this like Superman cape over me that I was the guy. And I always had to be that guy for everyone else. Right? It's like, oh, that's Kamalei, that's a superstar, that's the Rock, right? Like, oh, that's an NFL player, right? Like when he comes into the gym, it's like, oh, dude, that's Kamalei. Like, dude, it's like, I hated when people did that to me because it broke my heart. Because in my mind, I was like, dude, I'm a broken dude that just wants to be around people that genuinely love and care about him. That is it. That was what I was after. And now that I'm actually in this phase of my life where I'm not making this extravagant amount of money anymore. I'm not a Superman that plays on Sundays. I'm not this extraordinary star anymore. I'm a human, bro. I'm a business owner. I'm a barber. And I get to see the genuine and authenticity that people view me at. And I can meet people at where they're at from a humane standpoint, you know? So I think for me, leaving the game, there's obviously pros and cons, but it made me who I am, man. I wouldn't
Yeah.
change it for the world. I have so much more appreciation for being a dad, right? I was in the NFL. I was never home, bro. I was losing out on so much time with my daughter, missing family reunions, missing birthdays, missing parties, missing everything for the sacrificing of a team.
Yeah.
But I had a team away and I had a team at home, and I was failing my team at home, right? And I think like hindsight's 2020, but I'm super blessed to be where I'm at from a mental standpoint and a spiritual standpoint now, and not just, a physical superhero that everyone sees. I want people to see my heart and my mind and hopefully impact and change lives with that.
Heck yeah, man. It's cool. One thing that keeps coming to my mind, Kamalei, is when you're talking and, just learning about your faith and your belief in Christ and so forth, and just the journey you've been on, the good, the bad, everything. I always say the Lord's playing chess, not checkers. He's not reactionary. He's doing things. He's moving his children many steps in advance, and we can't see it all the time. And that's just something I fully believe in. I've gone through my struggles in life too, going through a divorce when I was young and stuff, prior to meeting my now wife and stuff. And there's, people go through ups and downs, but as I look back and reflect, I'm like, man, at the time I was in a very dark spot, like very dark for a good 3 years. But he pulled me out of it. But now I realize why he was doing certain things and why I had to experience certain things, why I had to experience pain and struggle, and why I had to make those choices. And I think, hearing your story, I think it's similar. It might not have been what you wanted, but it's what you needed, because now you're finding your peace and you're doing your thing. And it's exactly what you just shared. And I think he was playing chess, man.
So
And that's so cool, man. And then one day, we'll all go through our struggle still to this day. Like, we're going to keep going through life and what it is. But one day, the Lord will be able to say checkmate, and we'll be able to see him. So can't
amen.
wait till the game's over, So as
Amen.
we wrap it up, Kamalei, as you mentioned, you're a barber, you're a business owner. And I wanted to highlight that because that's how I came in contact with you. Is I saw that post. I'm like, whoa, let's go, dude. So talk to us now that we're in the business side of things, the business phase of your life, and you're getting into that aspect. How are we tackling that? No pun intended, but sort of. How are we tackling the business side of things, and what is this all about? What's the salon about? And tell us where it's at, and how we can take advantage of the services that you're providing. I want to hear all about the barber stuff, dude.
Absolutely, man. It's been a crazy journey, like you said, for yourself, man. It's been about 3 years. I was in a dark place. I didn't know what I was going to do. I had no plan B. I didn't have a college degree. I left school early as a junior. Um, just no plan, man. I was living off my financial liquid. I made some good money. I invested well. So, I'm not struggling financially by any means. Super, super blessed in that regard, from the Lord up above. But my mindset, dude, I can't just like sit still and just live off that. Like, I was like, what am I going to do? But at the same time, it's like, how am I going to cultivate something where I'll still have time with my daughter? Right. That's a big thing in my life. I didn't want to go back to working a 9 to 5 or doing something where it's like, I can't see her and I'm away from her again. So, that was kind of the whole thing, how I kind of fell into that. I was, so every Friday when I played, I also would get a haircut. Okay, so a little bit about my Friday routine. Well, so it's called Fast Fridays in the NFL, right? So a lot of guys would get out about 1, 2 o'clock, which is a couple hours sooner than an average day. So get out a little early, right? So you got time to go home with your family. If we travel on Saturdays, it gives you, just a little extra time. If you want to go on a date night with the wife, you do certain things. My Fridays, I would always try to get home, spend some time with my girls. I would always have my massage therapist come to my house and my barber every Friday, never miss. And then I would eat dinner with the girls and we'd put them down. I would spend some time with my wife. Like that was a typical Friday for me. Homebody, pretty chill, hanging out, low key. I got my haircut every week, and then my whole thing happened, and I was like, dude, I just love being around a barber, love cutting my hair. And I like actually got into a weird place where I thought the Lord was calling me into a place of like not pastoring and not evangelism, but sharing, almost like a coach, right? But I was like,
Yeah.
I don't really want to coach because coaching just takes up so much of your time. So I was like, how can I still bless these kids in a different way? I was like, dude, barber, love cutting hair, love sharing with the kids, just conversating, you know, not from like, why aren't you in the A gap?
Yeah.
Why aren't you running cover 3? I told you to blitz. Instead, he can be at a calm peace of mind, sitting down in my chair and like genuinely giving me what's really on his mind and heart. And I feel like I can impact these kids and these youth and people in general of just having a conversation with them and like sharing my testimony, and like hopefully that puts insight and life into them, because I believe I'm the only ex-professional athlete in any sport to be in the hair and beauty industry as a whole. So that's kind of where like the whole novelty piece like really came into play. So my shop is called Novelty Salon. We are located on Overland in between Orchard and Vista. The address is 3925 West Overland Road. We should be operating here about the middle of February. We're still fine-tuning some last minute contract and stuff. But having a shop like this really allows me to cultivate an environment for workers to kind of teach them the qualities of what it takes to be around high level people in general. GMs, owners, head coaches, assistant coaches. I mean, you talk about extremists, dude. Perfection, time management, routine, right? And I feel like in this barber industry as a whole, there's such a lag there. There's such a misinterpretation how some people view us. It's like, oh, you're a barber? Oh, lazy, do drugs. You're probably a convict. You're this, that, and the third. Right. And that's just like a natural stigma around people, right? Big guy, tattoos, probably went to jail, this, right? It's a whole stigma. And I think for me, it just really allows me to shape shift and change the narrative as a whole in barbering, of like bringing what I've learned of making it to the NFL, taking the positive things and applying that to barbering, right? Like it's work. You show up on time, you're in a professional environment, you provide a high-class service, but you also cultivate and help those people that's around you, which is my new quote-unquote teammates, right? My barbers, my clients. And we share a break room, which is now our quote-unquote locker room, where we talk about family, we talk about real-life issues, you know, whether they're going through stuff. And I think a big thing that I'm genuinely most excited about is one, sharing with the community and doing events, helping people out. Not only that, is helping people grow in their journey, right? Like it's kind of being an owner and a leader, quote unquote, the CEO, is the best quality in a leader is to serve people. And I truly believe that, because no one wants to be around an a-hole who talks down on people and all that stuff. Like we all been around that, and it's not cool. And I feel like the best quality in a leader is to serve people. And for me, is to provide a platform and an opportunity for those who are looking to work with me, and to not only help them advance their career in barbering, but advance their lives, right? To kind of share what we talked about earlier as far as my testimony, the hardships I've been through. And it's like to kind of steer them in the right direction if they don't have direction, right? Or if they're a little younger, right? To kind of like shape shift and kind of be a big brother or just a friend or someone they can rely on and like bring their problems to and be like, dude, okay, this is the problem. This is how we solve it. You got to trust me. This is where we get from point A to point B, bro. You want to be better? Okay, these are the steps we got to take, bro. And there's going to be things I'm going to learn, right? It's not always going to be the right answer or be the right thing. But as far as that conviction of just like seeing people progress and like not have them get to low points in their life that I've been through and just like sitting back and navigating and just being a little part of their success and like helping them buy a house if they need a realtor, right? Like helping them get a car. Like, bro, how do we put a down payment on something? How do we do our taxes? Like, bro, do you have a CPA? Hey, bro, dude, I need a lawyer. Like, I have all these connections here in the Valley that I've cultivated and grown throughout my time. That's like, all I can do is use it as a resource to be a platform for those people because, you know, in barbering, I'm telling you, man, being in this industry has changed my life. It genuinely changed my life. Like 1 year ago today, January 16th of 2023 was when I actually went to barber school. It was a 9-month process, right? And within that 9 months, I was able to see people from all walks of life. Like, dude, I seen one person that would work 2 side jobs, had 2 kids just to support those kids and still be on fast foot to try to be a barber because that's what they genuinely wanted to do. Meanwhile, I didn't have to work. I had financial backing that didn't need to do this. All I had to do was go to school, right? So kind of seeing that kind of perspective and like really putting me in check really made me have more appreciation for this trade. Like there's people out here trying to get it, man. And like, if I can just be a small piece of their success to like push them in the right direction, helping them buy rings for their wives, man, be good dads, be helpers in the community, you know, like that's what I'm most excited about this shop. Like not only producing fire cuts and blessing dudes, but seeing people grow and cultivate and create a team and just watch that success unfold is what I'm really most looking forward to for sure.
Yes, sir, dude. Man, I'll tell you, if you guys are living in the Boise area, anywhere in the Treasure Valley, when I say Boise area, that's all surrounding areas of Boise, right? We're talking Meridian, Nampa, Eagle, Caldwell. You can call it Boise, whatever, Garden City, everywhere. It's within 20 minutes away of where his shop is going to be. So I'm going to put the address in the description of the podcast, and I'll also be tagging the salon here in the podcast. And I'm a big fan of like barbers, like the barbershop that I go to. My barber's name's Trevor Hill, and I'll say this, man, Kamalei, it's so true. People will just say, "Oh, you're just going to get a haircut." It's so much more than a haircut, dude. Even just yesterday, I went and got a cut. And in the barbershop, once you like build a personal relationship with your barber, it's actually pretty dope. We were literally talking about the networks. Like he was a former Marine, so he's got a story. Like you have so many connections, and if you can build that, and he literally was helping me. He's like, "Hey, I got a guest for your podcast," and then some random dude who was getting his haircut was like, "Hey, I'm actually going to Vegas this weekend with a former NFL lineman. Would you want to?" He didn't even know me. He goes, "But I heard Trevor talking about your podcast. You want to have it?" Things happen that are pretty crazy inside of a barbershop. So I just think that you're going to bring so much to the community. And so I know it sounds kind of weird and like fanboyish, but like I literally believe that a barbershop has so much impact on the community of everything you just say in there. Like you can totally bless people, not only with a haircut, right? Because that makes people feel good. But you can have those conversations and you can talk to the people and cultivate an awesome team and an awesome community. I'm looking forward to it, man. That's freaking dope. Freaking dope, dude.
Thank
so
you. Excited.
Yeah, you're welcome, man. As we wrap it up, I just want to say thank you, man. I really appreciated this time having you on here and sharing your insight with us, and I look forward to chatting with you in the future. And hopefully visiting the salon and checking it all out when it's ready to rock and roll next month. Hopefully, fingers crossed, like you said, that it'll be ready to rock and roll in February. And that'll be when this episode launches anyway. So hopefully by that time, it's either up and running or close to it. So, but yeah, man, I just want to say thank you for joining the show, brother.
I really appreciate you having me, man. Like, I really do. I don't talk to a lot of people. I'm not out there on all these platforms. If you guys don't believe me, you guys can go on Google and check for yourself. I don't do a lot of interviews. I don't talk to a lot of people. So I appreciate you for allowing me to step out of my comfort zone a little bit and to share with those, because I think I lose sight of, I'm always go, what's next, got to keep going, that I don't sit back sometimes and see those other high school boys that maybe need a little more impact or a little more push in their life or a little more insight. So, man, I hope I can shed light on anybody going through stuff in the sports realm, and keep God first. Without that, bro, you are not going to reap any fruit in your life. And I can say that with 100% truth. So I just hope everyone listening to this can keep him first, keep him centered. And with that, Matthew 6:33, right? Seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all else will be established unto you. And that's like, staple verse. Just have it written on your heart, man. Seek his kingdom, seek him first. Whatever it is you're doing, sports, podcasts, life, people, relationships, marriage, does not matter, bro. You will reap fruit if you do that. So I appreciate you having me, brother.
Absolutely. What a way to end it. For those who are listening, hey, just like I said before, consider leaving us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts if you can. And make sure to hit that subscribe button, because we'll be coming to you next week with another interview. Take care. Guys, thanks so much for listening to another episode of my show. Now, if you could go and do me a favor, head over to iTunes, give me 5 stars, and leave me a review, it would be greatly appreciated. Thanks, guys. Appreciate your support.